All right, what's up, YouTube? This is BoxingWave, and we're going to talk a little UFC here. Potential boxing crossover with Francis Ngannou, who is one of the most destructive heavyweights of all time in the UFC. You know, without a doubt. I mean, his knockout highlights are insane. You know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Francis at all. He's pretty popular at this point. He's been popular, but recently he's made some comments, and it's not the first time, but a potential boxing, MMA crossover. He's called out Wilder. He's called out Tyson Fury. He's even called out Dillian White. There was some words exchanged between the two in the past. And he's willing to do boxing, which is not surprising because a lot of MMA fighters are underpaid. This is a pay-per-view star over there. He has a fight coming up next week, which I'm going to speak on briefly. I might as well speak on it now. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this fight between him and Gane. Now, I'm not that familiar. Like, I'm become more of a casual MMA fan. I watch certain fights, certain cards, but I don't cover them. I actually used to make videos on UFC or MMA fights in the past, but I'm not a hardcore MMA fan anymore not because I dislike it. I still love it. It's just that it's a lot of time just to cover boxing, internationally too. It's not like I'm just covering a specific type or a specific demographic or whatever boxer. So boxing takes enough time. MMA is a whole nother beast, so it would be hard for me to do both. But Gane, I'm not that familiar. I've only seen him fight once. I've seen him fight Derek Lewis, who, is a very respectable heavyweight fighter who's been in there with a lot of the top fighters and has a big KO power punch and has some crazy fights himself. But I've never seen Derek Lewis lose the way he lost to Gane. I mean, he pretty much got shut out. And then he was stopped. I believe, yeah, he was stopped. And Gane, a big heavyweight. This is a big guy, but he moves like a welterweight, and it's very scary. His bounce, the way he's so light on his feet. Even as boxers, when I compare him to boxers, there's not boxers out there that move like this guy. For his size, he's very, very dangerous, very, very technical, and can still punch, Now, he's extremely athletic, and so is Francis Ngannou. I mean, and they have history, and they are, let me say that they've sparred, and they've been in there together. They are very familiar with each other. And, I heard that Gane has gotten the better of Francis Ngannou. So this is a real fight. I'm a big Francis Ngannou fan, and I'm definitely rooting and pulling for him. But this is a very dangerous fight. I'm going to go as far as saying that this is possibly his most dangerous fight. And I know Ngannou's been in there with, Stipe and, he's been in there with a lot of fighters. He's been in there. Didn't look so good against Derek Lewis, but he's improved over these years. Where, he's had rematches with Stipe where he originally lost, looked much better. He's doing a lot of better with his conditioning. He's very powerful. He's very strong, but notice that, his takedown defense is much better now. His conditioning is much better. His stamina is better. He's just he's a better technician than he was before. Before it was just raw power. Now he's very calculated, But as a boxer, and I know he wants some money, and I think it's cool because I think we're going to get more crossover fights while fighters are actively fighting, right? Instead of guys being washed up and saying like, a James Toney who went over there to fight a UFC fight. Yeah, we're going to still get those. You're going to get the Jake Paul fighting guys that's kind of like on a brink of retirement or just retired or past it. We're going to start getting MMA fighters to get in there with current active heavyweight, not heavyweight, but boxing champions or high level fighters, because people want the money. People want the money, and crossovers are great because if you're getting elite MMA fighters to get in there, the ring with actual boxers, that's great. The only thing is the MMA guys are in a huge disadvantage here, because yes, you might be getting paid more, but your chances of winning are not as likely as it would be if you were in the octagon. You know what I'm saying? These guys think that putting on UFC gloves, or smaller gloves, gives them an advantage. It doesn't really give you an advantage against a boxer, because yes, you're wearing gloves that you're familiar with, and yes, every punch might count or be more effective, but you are more likely to get hit too. It's not like you're wearing MMA gloves to go in the ring with a boxer, where a boxer is more skilled than you are. They live to it. You might have a boxing experience, but you're not a pro boxer. And we've seen that with these crossover fights. These guys, Conor McGregor, who was a very good striker as an MMA fighter, very good puncher or counter puncher as an MMA fighter, going in there with Floyd Mayweather, he just looked okay. He looked awkward at times. You can use your awkwardness as an advantage, but Ngannou calling out guys like Wilder and Fury at the very elite level, I don't know. You can't kick, you can't knee, you can't do takedowns. You're at a disadvantage. You're stripped of everything that you train for on a yearly basis. Clarissa Shields, recently took her loss in MMA. She was the better puncher between her and her opponent in that fight, but MMA is very, very deep. But most of the crossovers are going to be MMA fighters going over to boxing, because the boxing is where the money is at. Francis Ngannou, this is the thing with Francis. I think I tweeted about this maybe a week or so ago. He needs to focus on Gane, and I'm not saying he's not focused on Gane, but he got a lot of things going on. He's calling out fighters that are boxers. He has a huge dispute going on with UFC, and as far as paying and not looking to get paid what he's currently been getting paid, which is like $500,000, which is very underpaid with the amount of pay-per-views he's been a part of. Well, I don't want to go into the business because I don't follow it that heavy, but I would assume that Ngannou being the champion over there and having the name that he has and the success that he has, I would assume that he would be getting millions, at least a couple million per fight at this point. I don't know what the pay-per-view numbers are looking like for him, but I would assume if you're UFC's heavyweight champion, you should be getting paid. You should be hitting some M's, But I get it. It's business. Contracts are signed. You agree to certain deals. You agree to what you're worth at the time, not what you're worth later. Now, after the contract is up, then you can renegotiate. Obviously, you'll be getting paid a lot more. But this is a problem with a lot of UFC stars, and this is why a lot of them want to put their foot into the boxing world, and they want to make that money. As far as the boxing end of it, the UFC, the heavyweight division is a mess right now because you got unifications, we got undisputed that we want, we have a ton of mandatory fights, rematches, contracted rematch clauses that's holding things up. Mandatories that hold, you got these title eliminators, you got all of this stuff where there's always work to be done, and there's very little time for voluntary matches, and that would be a voluntary match. If Wilder is in there, if it's about Wilder, if it's about Fury, or if it's about Joshua, if it's about Usyk, and some of the other mandatories out there, I don't see where there's room to make Ngannou fight if one of these, while you're holding a title. Now, if you're not holding the title and you're free to do what you want, I can see the fight happening. And I think it's better to have it, again, when the fighters are in their prime, right? They're in their prime. They're healthy. I think that'll be cool, I think Mayweather and McGregor was probably the best, even though Mayweather was retired. He was just recently retired, He was much fresher than what he was when he fought Logan Paul like last year. You know what I'm saying? So with all that being said, I like these crossover fights. They're cool. I think they're good for the fighters to make some money, and I'm all about the fighters making some money. Ngannou is a very destructive power puncher. I don't know how he would fare in the boxing world. Going straight to a Tyson Fury, I don't want that right now, because I think Tyson Fury and then the top fighters have work to get done. I don't know what Wilder is willing to do. I don't know if Wilder even wants to fight anymore. I don't know what's up with him. Dillian White, he's in the mix of the title conversation at this point. So I don't know if that fight is not a fight that I want right now, because I want to see whether or not these guys that are in the area of fighting for a title, I don't want them to do the MMA thing, unless they take a loss and they're available. That's different. But eventually I would like to see Ngannou, try out the boxing thing. It's just that as explosive as he is, as athletic as he is, I don't see him being at an elite boxing level, at least not right away. Even with those gloves, whether or not you have the gloves, you're still fighting a more skilled boxer, There's no MMA fighter that I feel, in fact, I actually believe that Cyril Gane would have a better shot as a boxer, just because he paces himself very differently. Like, he's extremely athletic. He's very calculated, and he knows how to pace himself. I think pacing is so important. I think he's, and I'm basing it off one fight. I know, but I've heard people discuss Gane in a way where they saw exactly what I saw in that fight against Derek Lewis. Gane is a guy that I can see being a boxer, and if he goes in there with a top boxer, I can see him having a little bit more success round by round. Yes, Ngannou has the knockout power. He can go in there and just explode and probably knock out a few heavyweights up there. But he also can get rocked too, So I'm interested. I am interested. And I do want the UFC fighters and the MMA fighters all together to make more money. There are some crossover fights that I want to see. But for boxing, I want boxers to take care of business first. That's my stance on it. All right? Let me know what you think in the comments. All of these topics I'm going to address. We're going to talk about it live at some point. It's just that I need to put more videos out there, because there's so much news that's just been coming, like, quickly. So many things that I want to talk about and discuss with you guys. But those are my views. Leave comments. I will read the comments, and we can just address these things later on. All right? Peace.